Welcome all to the course of Data Communication Networking, BE 7th semester, Electronics and Communication Engineering. We are discussing a network layer in which a logical addressing. We have discussed an IPv4 in our previous session, that different classless addressings, and one example has been given to you. So today we start our discussion with NAT, and then we go for a IPv6. So firstly, what is a NAT? NAT is a network address translation. The number of homes, its users and small business that want to use an internet is over increasing. In the beginning, a user was connected to the internet with a dial-up line, which means that he or she was connected for a specific period of time. An ISP with a block of addresses could dynamically assign an address to its user. An address was given to a user when it was needed, but the situation is different today. Home users and small business can be connected by a ADSL line or a cable modem. In addition, many are not happy with one address. Many have created a small networks with a several hosts and need an IP address for each host. With the shortest or a shortage of address, this will be a serious problem. A quick solution for this problem is called a network address translation. As you can see over here, network address translation. Short form is NAT. Our NAT enables a user to have a large set of addresses internally and one address or a small set of the address externally. The traffic inside a use can use a large set, a traffic outside a small set. To separate the addresses uses inside the home or a business and the ones used for the internet, our Internet Authority have reserved 3 sets of addresses as a private address, as you can see in a given table. This table shows an address for a private network. Over here it is a 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255. Total 2 raised to 24 addresses are there. Okay, so there are 3 range given over network address translation. Any organization can use address out of this set without permission from the Internet Authority. Everyone knows that these reserved addresses are for the private networks. They are unique inside the organization, but they are not unique globally. No router will forward a packet that has one of these addresses as the destination addresses. The site must have only one single connection to the global internet through a router that runs a NAT software. So you can see over here, it is a NAT router. It is a simple implementation of our NAT. Okay. This figure shows the private network uses a private addresses. A router that connects to the internet to the global uses a one private addresses and the one global addresses. It is our private one, it is a global address. The private network is a transparent to the rest of the internet, and the rest of the internet sees only a NAT router with an address of 200.24.5.8. Fine. So it is our NAT implementation. So how we can translate our address? So let's see with the help of the example and figure. So it is our address translation figure. All the outgoing packets going through the NAT router, which replaces the source address in the packet with a global NAT address over here. All the incoming packets also pass through the net router, which replace the destination address in the packet, just like our router global address, with an appropriate private address. This figure shows an example of address translation. So what is the translation table required for this NAT? So we have noticed that the translating of our source address for outgoing packets is straightforward. But how does our net router knows the destination address for a packet coming from the internet? There may be tens or hundreds of private IP addresses, each belonging to one specific host. The problem is solved if the net router has a translation table. Using a IP address, how it can be solved, which is shown over here. It is the simplest form. Our translation table is only the two columns, one private address and the external address or a destination of a packet. When our router translates the source address to the outgoing packet, it also makes note that the destination address where the packet is going. Fine. When our response comes from the destination, our router uses the source addresses for a packet, just like as our external address, to find the private address of a packet. This figure shows the idea of this. Note that the addresses that are changed or translated are shown in color. Fine. So it is translated. Okay. So color shown is the translation. In this strategy, communication must always initiated by the private network. The net mechanism describes required that private network start the communication. As we will see, net is used mostly by the ISP, which assign one single address to a customer. The customer, however, may be a member of a private networks that has many private addresses. In this case, a communication with an internet is always initiated from the customer side using a client program such as HTTP, Telnet and FTP to access the corresponding server program. For example, when an email that originates from the non-customer side is received by the ISP email server, the email is stored in a mailbox for a customer until it retrieved. A private network cannot run a server program for a client outside this network if it is using a net technology. Now, using a pool of IP addresses, the translation table using a pool of IP addresses. Since our net router has only one global address, only one private network host can access the same external host. To remove the restriction, the net router use a pool of global addresses. For example, instead of using only one global address, just like our 224.5.8, the net router can use four addresses: 2000.24.5.8, 2024.5.9, 5.10 and 5.11. In this case, four private network hosts can communicate with the same external host at the same time because each pair of address defines a connection. However, there are still some drawbacks. In this example, no more than 4 connections can be made to the same destination. Also, no private network host can access two external server programs, just like our HTTP or STP, at the same time. Now, using both IP address and port numbers, translation table with the help of the IP address and port number, to allow the many-to-many relationship between the private network host and external server programs, we need more information in the translation table. For example, suppose two hosts with an address of 172.18.3.1 and 172.18.3.2 inside a private network needed to access to the HTTP server to the external host, just like our 25.8.3.2. If the translation table has 5 columns instead of 2, that include the source and the destination address, or source and destination port numbers of the transport layer protocol. The ambiguity is eliminated. The table shows an example of such a table. Note that when our response from an HTTP comes back, the combination of source address 25.8.3.2 and the destination port 1400 defines the private network host to which the response should be directed. Note that also for this translation to work, the temporary port number 1400 and 1401 must be unique, so it will be unique. So next is NAT and ISP. What is the relation between NAT and ISP? An ISP that serves a dial-up customers that can use a NAT technology to conserve our addresses. For example, suppose an ISP is generated or granted 1000 addresses but has 1 lakh customers. Each of a customer is assigned a private network address. The ISP translate each of the 1 lakh source address in outgoing packets to one of the 1000 global addresses. So you can see over here, and it translates the global address destination address in the incoming packets to the corresponding private address. Fine. So our figure shows an example. Okay, so it is our NAT with ISP. So it is a end of our IPv4. Now we go for a IPv6 addresses. So despite all the short-term solution, address depletion is still a long-term problem for the internet. These and other problems in the IP protocol itself have been motivated for our IPv6. So some problems, just like you can remember this, the classless addressing, dynamic host configuration protocol, DHCP, NAT, address depletion, all are the example of this problem. So such a lack of accommodation for the real-time audio and the video transmission and encryption and authentication of the data, some application have been motivated for this our IPv6. In this section we compare the address sources of our IPv6 to IPv4. Later chapter we discuss both protocols. Fine. So structure and address space to be discussed in this section. Structure. What is the structure of IPv6? An IPv6 address consists of a 16 bytes or octets in 128-bit long. So our IPv address is 128-bit long. And hexadecimal colon notation. To make our addresses more reliable, IPv6 specifies a hexadecimal colon notation. In this notation, 128 bits is divided into the 8 sections. You can see over there 8 sections are there. Each 2 bytes in a length. Each have 2 bytes in a length. 2 bytes in a hexadecimal notation requires 4 hexadecimal digits. Therefore, the address consists of 32 hexadecimal digits with every 4 digits separated by the colon. You can see over here every 4 digit is separated by this colon. Okay. Abbreviation. Although IP address is even in a hexadecimal format, it is very long, or many of the digits are zeros. You can see over here many of these are zeros. So in this case we can abbreviate the addresses. The leading zeros are zeros before the digits in a section of 4 digits can be omitted over here. Over here 74 will be written like this. 2 zeros are eliminated. Only the leading zeros can be dropped, not the trailing zeros, just like our F0. It will be covered as a F0. Do not eliminate the 0 over here. Using this form abbreviation, our 0074 will become a 74, and all the zeros will be as a 0. Fine, all the zeros will be 0 like this. Note that and digit which have FDEC cannot be abbreviated. Further abbreviation are possible if there are consecutive sections consisting of zeros only. We can remove the zeros altogether and replace them with a double semicolon. You can see over here, so all are zeros, so it will be like this, double semicolon, it will be a gap. Fine, so all three zeros are eliminated. Note that this type of abbreviation is allowed only once per address. If there are two runs of the zeros section, only one of them can be abbreviated. Re-expansion of the abbreviated address is very simple. Align the unabbreviated portions and insert zeros to get the original expanded address. To clarify it, let's have an example. So expand this address to its original form. We first need to align left side of a double colon to the left of the original pattern and the right hand side the double colon to the right of the original pattern to find how many zeros we need to replace the double colon. You know that there are 8 parts of our IPv6, so 8x groups are there. So this means that in the first there are 4 zeros, in the second there are 2 zeros before this, after the last one, so it will like this, okay, or 2 is head, and then 3 0 is head, or between 1, 2 and 3 groups are there. Okay, so it is very easy to understand and very easy to translate it in original form. Okay, so what is the address space in our IPv6? So IPv6 has much longer address space, just like 2 raised to 128 addresses are available. The designer of an IPv6 divided the address into the several categories. Few of the leftmost bit called as a type prefix in such address define its category. The type prefix is variable in length, but it is designed in such a manner to code no code is identical to the first part of any code. In this way, there is no ambiguity. When address is given, the type prefix can easily be determined. This table shows the prefix for each type of addresses. The third column shows the fraction of each type of address related to the whole address space. Okay, so you just have some brief idea about our types of prefix. You can go through by pausing the video. Okay, so moving ahead, a unicast address. A unicast address defines a single computer. The packet sent to the unicast address must be delivered to the specific computer. IPv6 defines the two types of unicast address: geographically based and private based. We discussed the second type here. The first type is left for the further definition. The provider based address is generally used by the normal host as a unicast address. Address format shown in this figure. Fields for the provider based address as follows. First is type identifier. A 3 is there, so it is a type identifier. A 3-bit defines the address as a private base address. Next is a registry identifier. This is a 5-bit field that can indicate the agency that the registered the address. Currently the 3 registry centers have been defined over here. INTER NIC code is 11000. The center of the North America. RIP NIC code is 01000. The center of European registration, and APNIC 10100 for the Asian and Pacific countries. Next is a provider identifier. This is a variable length. This field identifies the provider for the internet access, such as our ISP. A 16-bit length is recommended for this field. Fine. Next is a subscriber identifier. When an organization subscribes to the internet through a provider, it is assigned a subscriber identification. A 24-bit length is recommended for this field. Next is subnet identifier. Each subscriber can have many different subnetworks, and each subnetworks have an identifier. A subnet identifier defines a specific subnet under the territory of a subscriber. A 32-bit length is recommended for this field. Last is a node identifier. The last field defines the identity of the node connected to the subnet. A length of 48 bits is recommended for this field to make it compatible with the 48-bit link. It is address used by Ethernet. In the further, this link address will probably be the same as the node physical address. So what are the multicast addresses? The multicast addresses are used to define a group of the host instead of just one. A packet sent to the multicast address must be delivered to each member of the group. A figure shows the format of the multicast address. A second field in a flag that defines the group of the address over here as an either permanent or a transient. A permanent group identifies and defined by the internet authorities and can be accessed at all times. A transient group addresses, on the other hand, is used only for a temporarily. System engaged in the teleconferences, for example, can use a transient group addresses. A third field defines the scope of the group addresses over here. Many different scopes have been defined. It can be shown over here. Next is Anycast. So Anycast address is IPv6 also defines an Anycast address. An Anycast address, like a multicast address, also defines a group of nodes. However, a packet destined for Anycast address is delivered to only one of the members of the Anycast group and the nearest one, a one which have a shortest route. Although the definition of the Anycast address is still debatable, one possible use is to assign an Anycast address to all the routers of an ISP that can cover a large logical area in the internet. The routers outside the ISP deliver a packet destined for an ISP to the nearest ISP router. No block is assigned for an Anycast address. Next is reserved addresses. Another category in our address space is the reserved addresses. These addresses start with our 8 zeros. You can see over here a yellow box is there. So 8 zeros are there. So it is a type prefix is 8 zeros. A few subcategories can define this category as shown in this figure. An unspecified address is used when our host does not know its own addresses and sends an inquiry to find its addresses. A loopback address is used by the host to test itself without going to the network. Next is computable address. It is used during the translation from IPv4 to IPv6. It is used when a computer using an IPv6 wants to send a message to another computer using an IPv6, but the message needs to pass through a part of a network that still operates in our IPv4. A mapped address, last one, is also used during the translation. However, it is used when our computer has migrated to our IPv6 and wants to send a packet to the computer still using a IPv4. As our recent computers, most computer uses IPv4 version of IP address. Next is a local address. These addresses are used when an organization wants to use an IPv6 protocol without being connected to the global internet. In other words, they provide an addresses for a private networks. Nobody outside the organization can send a message to a nodes using these addresses. Two types of addresses are defined for this purpose. You can see in this figure a link local and site local. A link local address is used in an isolated subnet, and our site local address is used in an isolated site with several subnets. Fine. So it is our end of our session. So let's revise our session in a quick view. We started our discussion with our network address translation concept. We go for a 3 range of a net which is used by our private networks. Then we see implementation of net. After that, an address translation algorithm we have seen. A translation table using a one IP address we have seen. After that, we go for a pool of IP address. Then if we use IP address and port number using a translation table. We also relate our net with an ISP. And IPv6 introduced in this section. The structure of IP is 2 raised to 128 bits. 8 hexadecimal colon is used in our IPv6 addresses. After that, different abbreviation use. Constant zeros can be converted to the 2 colons, and leading zeros can be eliminated in this abbreviation. We have seen an example for the same. A unicast address concept, then multicast, and last anycast addresses. A reserved address we have also seen. A local address at the last we discussed. Okay students, it is a question for you. So write down in your notebook and send back it to me as per the given direction. Okay students, see you in the next session. Thank you.